Hey everybody, welcome to the weekly start, sit, and touchdown predictions for running back. We're closing out the fantasy football season. Most of you are in the playoffs. Some of you are just closing out your regular season and looking forward to weeks 15 and 16 for the playoffs and a 2-week playoff. Look, big deal. This is a big week. What I do before I get in, and I'm going to go game by game and give you the start, sits, and the touchdown predictions for everybody. But basically what I do is I have my own daily fantasy analytics, which are free to everybody. If you want them, just comment below. I'll be happy to send them to you. So the running backs, the way I do is everybody who's basically in the top 24 to 25, I grade as a start. If you're thinking about a 12-team league, that's 2 running backs per team, so that's where I grade as a start. Any fringe player, is worth an argument. Any sit, and that's on you. That's not on me. But let's go ahead and get rolling here. We have the Thursday night football game, Dallas versus Chicago Bears. I have Pollard and Tariq Cohen both as sits, and I don't think either one of them score. I have Ezekiel Elliott as a start, and I think he gets in the end zone and one time, and I think David Montgomery gets a start, but I don't think he gets in the end zone. I think he'll just get you enough catches and rushing yards to warrant the start there. So I like those guys. Next game on the list, we have Baltimore versus Buffalo. I like Mark Ingram. I think basically Baltimore is going to need the run game, not only Lamar Jackson from the quarterback position, but Mark Ingram up the middle. I like Mark Ingram to score a touchdown this week. I have him as a start. I have Gus Edwards as a sit. I don't think he gets in. For Buffalo, I actually have both of these running backs, whether it's Gore and Singletary. I have both of them rated as sits, although I have Singletary rated as kind of like a fringe type start. So I like him, especially in PPR leagues where he can get you some stuff out of the backfield. I just want to see Buffalo making more of an effort to getting him receptions out of the backfield. I like him as a running back. In fact, I love him as a running back. I just don't love the matchup for him this week. Next game on the list, we have Carolina versus the Atlanta Falcons. Carolina, there's only one running back of note, Christian McCaffrey. You start him. I think he gets you 3 touchdowns this week. I think he's going to have a monster game, maybe 2 and just a ton of catches, but I have him projected over 30. That's by far number 1 on my list this week for running backs. I think he'll get you a lot of points. Now, for Atlanta, surprisingly, I actually have Devontae Freeman as a start and possibly a touchdown. I have him graded at about 0.75 touchdowns, so more likely than not to punch it in the end zone. But regardless, I think he'll get you enough catches and yards, so even if he doesn't get in there, I think he'll be all right. Now, guys like Brian Hill or Bonifant or whoever else in the backups, don't start those guys. I don't think either one of those is going to be a factor this week. Next game, we have Cincinnati versus Cleveland. Joe Mixon, Gio Bernard, they've been struggling all year. Now, Joe Mixon has been getting it together as of late. I have him kind of as a bottom line fringe start. You can make the argument if you're desperate, I think you can play him. But honestly, at the flex position, I would look more towards wide receivers. I think there's more out there. I don't think Mixon gets in. I certainly don't think Gio Bernard gets in. Even though I like Andy Dalton more at quarterback, I just don't see it happening for them. Now, Cleveland, Nick Chubb is a definite start. I think he gets you 1, possibly 2 touchdowns this week. And I actually have Kareem Hunt graded as maybe a fringe start. If you're in a PPR league, I certainly wouldn't begrudge you playing him. I don't think he gets in the end zone, but he'll be a factor in the offensive game plan. Next on the list, we have Denver versus Houston. Denver starting Drew Lock for the second game here. I think both Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman have value. Now, I think a touchdown is going to go to one of them. My guess is probably Phillip Lindsay. I think one of these running backs is going to get the touchdown. So it could be Royce Freeman, but I do like both of them as starts this week just based on yardage accumulation alone. For Houston, I do not have Carlos Hyde getting in the end zone, but I do have Duke Johnson getting in the end zone. I think that Houston is going to attack Denver's defense with screen passes. That's Duke Johnson's game. I think he'll be a factor this week. Detroit versus Minnesota. Bo Scarborough, Ty Johnson, J.D. McKissick, all sits. I don't have any Detroit running back getting in the end zone this week. I don't think they'll be factors. For Minnesota, I have Dalvin Cook, assuming he plays, and I think he will. Assuming he plays, I have him as a start. Now, my analytics like him to get in the end zone twice, but here's the deal. Because of that shoulder injury, I'm guessing Minnesota is going to rotate Alexander Mattison, who's a very talented back. I think they'll rotate him in, especially in short yardage situations, because he is capable of picking up first downs in short yardage situations. So I do think Dalvin Cook projection takes a little bit of a hit. I still think he's safely 1 touchdown. And Alexander Mattison, if you're super desperate and your waiver wire is really thin, look for him because he could be a nice sleeper for you. And he's somebody that, as a daily fantasy sleeper this year, I like him quite a bit, especially this week with that Dalvin Cook banged up shoulder. Next game on the list, we have Indianapolis versus the Tampa Bay Bucs. Now, here's the thing with Indianapolis. Marlon Mack is questionable. Is he going to be back? We don't know as of the taping of this show. If he plays, I like him, and I like him to even potentially get in the end zone. I have him graded about a 0.7 to 0.8 touchdown range there. Now, if he doesn't play, I actually think the safer running back is Nyheim Hines. We've seen what happened in recent weeks with Jonathan Williams and Wilkins there. That's kind of a hot hand approach, whoever's playing better. Hines is the one constant kind of out of the backfield, and he got a touchdown last week. But again, if Marlon Mack plays, ignore all the other running backs, just play Mack. For the Tampa Bay Bucs, I don't have Jones or Peyton Barber as starts, and those guys are just keeping the job warm until Arizona either trades or cuts David Johnson this year. It's going to happen. We all see what's going on in Arizona. They're not giving him snaps. So I think he will be a Buccaneer and reunite with Bruce Arians and be a monster next year. Next game on the list, we have Miami versus the New York Jets. I do not have Balaj, Laird, anybody for Miami getting in the end zone. I do not think they're factors. They are both sits. The New York Jets, I think Le'Veon Bell ends his touchdown drought. I think he gets in, and I think he's definitely worth a start. I do not have, by the way, any of the backup running backs, whether it's Bilal Powell or Montgomery or anything like that. I don't have anybody else as a start for New York, no other factors. San Francisco versus New Orleans, a great game, interesting game for San Francisco. Is it going to be Mostert? Is it going to be Coleman? Is it going to be Breida? Who's going to be the guy? I think San Francisco, they're so talented at the running back position, they could go with a hot hand approach. Then you got like Wilson getting goal line carries sometimes. We don't know what's going to happen. I've been saying for, about a year and a half now that Mostert is the most talented running back on that roster. If he gets the start, I think he's definitely a start for you. If it's Coleman, I think that guy's whoever the primary ball carrier is, I think is definitely a start for San Francisco. And I think you can definitely make the argument for any of these three, honestly, as starts. Breida, I think, on third downs could be good. They could all contribute, but just, pay attention to the press, pay attention to the news. Just make sure, the 49ers aren't going to bench Coleman or entirely or something like that, or Mostert or whoever. Okay. Next team here, the New Orleans Saints. I think Kamara is definitely a start. I think he definitely gets in the end zone. I don't like Latavius Murray, although I think tactically speaking, I believe that you have to run up the middle, tough yards. No disrespect to Alvin Kamara, but I like him as as kind of like a touchdown explosive guy. I know he can run up the middle, but I like him outside the tackles. I like Latavius Murray more in the tackles. So it wouldn't shock me if Murray gets 10 carries here, but I wouldn't start him. I wouldn't risk my fantasy football playoff position on that. Next game on the list, we have Washington versus the Green Bay Packers. I start Darius Geis. I think Adrian Peterson is a fringe start. Even if Washington's losing by a lot, they're going to run the ball. That's just how this team is, and Dwayne Haskins can't throw the ball 50 times. Well, he can. He's just not going to complete any passes. Green Bay, I have both running backs to start. I have Aaron Jones getting in the end zone. I have Jamal Williams being enough of a factor to get you yards. So if you're really hurting at that bottom of the flex, Jamal Williams is available on a lot of people's waivers out there. I think he'll get you the volume this week and could even get in the end zone. If this is a runaway game, he's going to get a lot more opportunities in the red zone as well. Next game on the list, we have the Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have both Chargers running backs, Eckler and Melvin Gordon, not only being starts, but I have both of them getting in the end zone, with Gordon potentially getting in the end zone twice. Eckler gets a ton of catches now. He's basically used kind of like out of the backfield as a receiver in addition to being a change of pace running back. I like both of them. Start them. For the the Jacksonville Jaguars, Leonard Fournette will do well out of the backfield and running out of the backfield for Gardner Minshew as an outlet. I think he'll get you catches, he'll get you rushing yards, and I think he'll get you in the end zone at least once. And I have him graded about a 1.6 in terms of touchdowns, so he could even get you in the end zone twice. Next game on the list, we have Kansas City versus New England. I don't like the running backs for Kansas City, not to mention that Damian Williams and Darrell Williams and Darnell Thompson and all these, LaShawn McCoy, who's going to get the ball? It's kind of like a roulette situation. They're trying to find an answer there. And if they're trying to find an answer, my answer for you is don't start them in your fantasy football playoffs. New England, though, they're getting the running game going, and I think that's what this offense needs. Remember, coming into the season, it was predicted that New England was going to be a power running team. Then they had some injuries in the offensive line. Then they acquired some offensive linemen. Then they had more injuries on the offensive line, and it's changed. But now, James White's shown a life in the last couple of weeks. Even Sony Michel, I think, averaged like 4 yards a carry last week. I like both running backs. Sony Michel to get you volume, James White to get you in the end zone once this week. Next game, we have Pittsburgh versus Arizona. If James Conner plays, you play him. If he's out, you play Benny Snell. And Benny Snell might even still be on waivers for you out there, as crazy as that sounds, but he might be, so check that out. James Conner with the shoulder injury, that AC joint, point, he might not play. And if he doesn't, it's Snell. Even if he does play, I think you can still play Snell because I think Snell will get you enough carries. So I'm probably leaning towards Snell either way, certainly if James Conner is out. And James Conner is in, obviously you play him, and I think he gets in the end zone. Arizona, David Johnson has just not been getting playing time. It's either going to be Kenyon Drake or Chase Edmonds if Chase Edmonds is activated. My guess is it's going to be Drake for one more week. I have him as a fringe start. Now, if Chase Edmonds is activated, start him. I think he's going to be the starter next year too. So if you're in a dynasty league, snap that guy up before it's too late, or a keeper league or something like that. Pittsburgh versus I just said Pittsburgh. It's Tennessee versus Oakland. Derrick Henry, you start. I think he gets in the end zone. Deion Lewis is a sit. Oakland, I think Josh Jacobs gets in the end zone once. He's a start, but I don't like anybody else. Now, here's the deal. Like Jalen Richard, Washington, these guys out of the backfield, because Hunter Renfrow is hurt, they're going to get more opportunities in the passing game. However, I'm not going to, that's a daily fantasy type strategy, not a fantasy football playoff strategy. You ride Josh Jacobs, and that is it. 2 games left. We have Seattle. Chris Carson's a start. Rashad Penny for me is a sit this week. I think Chris Carson gets in the end zone. For the LA Rams, I think Todd Gurley is a start. I don't know that he gets in the end zone this week. He should, but who knows if Malcolm Brown's going to snake that touchdown away. By the way, Brown is a sit. Henderson is a sit. Gurley is a start. And I like Gurley to get you yardage accumulation and catches, but maybe not getting into the end zone. The New York Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles. With Eli Manning starting, I believe that Saquon Barkley is going to have a huge game. You're going to start him regardless, as well you should. I do think he'll get, my computers don't agree with me, but I do think Saquon Barkley gets in the end zone this week. For Philadelphia, I have Miles Sanders as a start. You sit Howard or Ajayi or whoever is the backup running, or the secondary running back there. It's Miles Sanders now. I don't have him getting in the end zone, but he'll get you enough yardage to warrant the start. So there you go. There's our full video. Check out our quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end edition as well. Best of luck to everybody in the NFL and for the fantasy football playoffs. Check us out, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on another episode soon.